Hello, my name is Heidi Schmidt and I am with Opticom. Today we're just going to talk about the basics of CCTV. So really general overview of the different types of products available, not necessarily Opticom specific. This is CCTV, video surveillance specific. So the different types of cameras that are out there, the different types of softwares and things like that, options that you have, and how to build a system with these kinds of items and when you would choose one type over another type. So I'm going to share my screen here and we're going to dive right in, assuming I can do this correctly. If that's the end of the slideshow. That was an excellent presentation, guys. I'm kidding. There we go. Okay. So basic CCTV training session, right? Intro to CCTV components. You should be able to see me in the top right here. And if you can't see me, which you don't have to see me, but you should be able to scroll and pull me up. So closed circuit television, right? CCTV is not only to be used as security systems, but it's also for monitoring applications such as production facilities, processing plants. So here at Opticom, we do commercial cameras, but we also do industrial cameras. And a lot of the conversations that we have with people, right, with distributors when they're going into a facility is like, hey, think outside of the box. You can't just think security, because so often we think a video surveillance camera and we think security. Oh, they need to monitor their parking lot, or they need to monitor their front door and see who's coming in, right? Things like that. But when you get into these industrial sites, yes, they need security. So they need a camera at a guard shack, or, you know, I don't know, at a way station, wherever, right? At their office, things like that. But there's a lot of process control that video surveillance is used for. And there's specific cameras for that as well. So I've got a stack of cameras right here. So I'm going to try to show you as we kind of go through. And so for those of you who aren't maybe familiar with it and haven't seen other versions of what this camera could potentially look like, we'll go through it. So the camera right there on the screen right now is a camera that's in a housing. That one's actually built into that housing in an enclosure, but this is the kind that you typically saw in the 80s and the 90s, right? The big old box camera housings. And you still see those in a few industrial facilities today. They're a little bit outdated, but it's important that you know what it is. So you know that if you see one of those and you're out and about, you need to have a conversation with whoever has that camera about when they want to update their cameras. Because if they still have that, that is probably not a very new system. So it's an opportunity for you, right? So CCTV systems vary by application, but they still need the same core components to work together. So there's going to be different technologies, and we're going to touch on that after we go through the different kinds of products. But they're all around the same core components to make them work together, right? So you need a camera, which is going to include the camera itself, the lens, the bracket, a housing potentially, everything you need to encompass that camera, right? And then you've got the cable, or if you're going wireless, right? But you need to have something to connect the camera to whatever it's going to be seen onto, right? And then you need the connectors for that as well. And then you're going to have a DVR, an NVR software, or even a quad processor, or something that's going to actually process the image and either record it or just process it to go onto the monitor. And then you're going to have your power and accessories. We will have a training probably next week about just unique random accessories that Opticom offers that maybe you didn't know were available on the market and that could potentially help your customers with some problems. So, but you have to have power and accessories, right? And then you have to have a monitor, right? Because you're obviously recording this because you want to be able to see what it is, whether you're in a convenience store, it's somebody's house, or if you're in a huge industrial family or family facility, you're going to want to see what you're recording. So an outdoor bullet camera, right? Super basic. I think I actually have the camera that's pictured there. That never happens. Or pretty dang close to it, right? So this one, right? I just grabbed this one off the shelf this morning. This is our, and I'll pull, right? Because I'm learning here as we're doing all these trainings I think I'm learning. There we go. Okay. To go into this. All right. So here's the camera, right? So this is the bullet camera right here. Okay, I see. You don't see it. All right, so it should be sharing and it didn't share. All right, so that's fine. You really didn't miss anything. But here's the camera. So now that you can already see me, this is the bullet camera, right? So I'm going to share this. I'm going to try to share it again. Okay. There you go. Now you can see it. Thank you. Sorry, guys. Again, lots of hiccups. I'm still working through this. But all right, so this is a bullet camera, right? So to give you that idea of what a bullet camera actually looks like. this is it. So there we go, we're shared, right? Okay. So this one's got a cable management bracket, and you can see it on the screen as well. So this got this snazzy little thing right here, watch. Oh, wait, no, that's not the one, right here, right? So you can see that. So the cable actually goes through that. So back in the day, and if you can't see this on my video, back in the day, right, you would hook it up and your cable would actually hang from here to here and go into the wall, right? So now they've got these cable management brackets. So the cable actually comes through here all the way through the bracket, and then when you mount that on the wall, the cable goes straight through it. So it's not hanging, right? So from a security standpoint, what people used to do is they would go and you just yank the cable and rip it out, right? So that's super cool, and that's an awesome feature that bullet cameras have on them these days. So all right. Okay, so outdoor rated, a sun shield. This is called a sun shield. They're typically going to be, and which is that top part right up here. If you can see my mouse right there, right? And they're usually adjustable forward and back with or without infrared. And then you can do a fixed or a varifocal lens, right? That means a fixed lens is going to be your lens that's not adjustable. A varifocal lens means it's adjustable, and you can go wider view or more narrow view, which means you're going to be closer or you're going to be further. So it's a great solution, and probably the camera you'll sell the most, that style, will be a bullet camera because it's super versatile. People put them inside. They're mainly used for outside, but you can get small ones to go inside as well. So that's a bullet camera. So right, then we've got a dome camera, and I have two of them here. All right, so they're going to be indoor or outdoor rated, and you're going to notice the size difference on these, right? And then you've got a vandal resistant option, which all of the outdoor ones now, at least all the ones we carry, are vandal. So it makes it just easier. And then it's going to be with or without infrared, which is your night vision. So I will pull this up here. Okay, so one of the benefits, right? So here we go. Here's like an indoor one. This is super, super basic, guys. I mean, nothing fancy about this. We've all seen these hanging around places. But it's a little bit less threatening than when you go with like a bullet camera that's kind of looking at you right when you walk in a door. So for a commercial application, an office, things like that, stores, they usually do domes. It's considered non-threatening. Here, and I haven't taken the plastic off the cover of this. This is a vandal dome, right? So this one's also got a junction box, right? So it screws off, you mount that up there, and then you actually put it in here, and it pulls all the cables in here, right? So again, that cable management, which is really important. And you see all these, we have a whole video that explains what all these go to. Our IP cameras are awesome. They have so many capabilities. I love them. So, so you can pop on our YouTube channel and see the video that explains all of those connectors with microphones and audio and you know, your power and PoE and all kinds of stuff. But we're not going to go there today because we're keeping it pretty basic. So let me pop this up again. See, we're doing all right, guys. Okay. So that's going to be indoor or ideal for indoor applications, like I said, so offices, convenience stores, things like that. The vandal dome is going to be ideal for a low-hanging eave or other areas that might be of concern. So if you've got an 8-foot or a 10-foot eave, maybe we'll say an 8-foot, anybody, if you've got a bullet up there, right? Now your cable's not hanging, but you can very easily knock it with a bat and make it look a different way, or knock it down, whereas a vandal dome is built to kind of take that impact a little bit more. So that's when you're going to use a vandal dome over a bullet in an outside application. And then we've got a pan tilt zoom. So I don't have one of these because they're quite large and they never really lay on the table the right way. So I just had visions of it rolling off every time I touched it or moved. So this is a pan tilt zoom camera, right? So indoor and outdoor rated. That pan tilt zoom means the camera inside can actually pan and tilt and move, and then it can zoom in and zoom out. So that means you've got someone there and you have a controller, right? Like that you're using, and you can control it through that. Or if you control it through a DVR or an NVR or software, same thing. You can make it manually zoom in and zoom out. And you can put it on what they call a tour. Right? So a tour is whenever you set it to go, maybe it goes all the way to the left, it pans that way and then zooms in and then zooms back out and then pans to the right and zooms in and zooms back out. And that's called a tour, right? So you can put it on that to where it just automatically keeps repeating whatever quote tour you've put it on. So wall mount or pendant mount. Pendant mount means it hangs from the ceiling. So the bottom one in this picture is a pendant mount. The wall mount mounts to the wall. We have 10 times to 36 times zoom available. There's a lot of pros to a PTZ, right? Because you usually have a much larger range of zoom on that, which is a huge benefit. You can get a lot of distance and you can move it around and cover a lot of area with one camera. However, one of the cons is that if you don't have someone sitting there manning that camera, you may not see everything you need to see. So a lot of people are like, oh, I just want to do a PTZ. Well, if you're using a PTZ for, I'll pull this up, for security purposes, and you're using a PTZ camera and it's looking that way, and someone is breaking in on this side of the door, that PTZ camera is absolutely worthless to you, right? Because it's looking over here when the action's over here. So, you know, there's definitely pros and there's definitely cons to it. And you just need to determine what is the best fit for that application for yourself or for your customer, whatever it is that you're working on personally. All right. Okay. All right, and then we've got a box camera, right? This is the old school camera like you see at the bank, right? So you have the rectangle camera, and then it goes into that housing, which is the picture in the middle. And I have one of these right here. And then you've got a lens, right? So it needs a housing for outdoor use. Otherwise, they go inside and the little bracket mounts right to them. With box cameras, the lens and the bracket are almost always sold separately. And I've been in this industry, I added it up this morning, 16 years. And I've never seen them. I mean, unless somebody pieces them together and sells them as a kit, but they're always individual components. So you need to make sure that if you have a customer that asks for a box camera, that you say, oh, okay, well, what lens do you want? What bracket? Let's make sure we get all of the components, right? Because the last thing you want to do is have your customer order a box camera and then you send them this, right? So which is fine, and that's the box camera, but it comes with a little rubber thing, and you have to actually put the lens on there, which this one still has the plastic on it, right? And put the lens on there in order for all of this to work. So here's the lens, right? So it's got, I'll show you this, this little cable right here, and that's the auto iris. This is a DC auto iris lens, which means it comes and that little cable plugs into the side of this box camera right here. And that's, it's an auto iris. So it opens and closes just like your eye does, right? So auto iris is what you want. You never really want to go manual iris. I don't even know if they're making that anymore. But 15 years ago, they definitely were. So, so that's what you want to do is you would go with an auto iris varifocal lens typically, but it does not come with the camera. You have to order it separately. Again, from anyone, if it's us or if it's somebody else, that's just kind of the way it is. But that's a box camera. So it's great to use when you want people to know that there's a camera there. Okay. So with that giant housing right there, like those things, and I didn't grab one, I should have, are like this wide. Like if you can see my hands, right, I'll pull it back up. So right, those giant housings, it's like this long and this wide all the way, the whole length. And then they have this bulky bracket. Like it's obnoxious if you've not seen one. But if you've got a place, like a lot of people like, I want to catch the guy in action. Well, in theory, that's a good idea. However, the problem with that is that, you know, if you do that, then you've caught them in action, but you've still had action. You want to use it as a deterrent, right? So that if anybody sees that big old camera, they're gonna be like, oh man, they have cameras here. I'm not gonna do whatever I'm gonna do. So it's more of a security type of application. And now we've got extra. So if you go into an industrial application that is using those, because we've come across that quite a bit, right? Because we do so much in the industrial market, and they're using it to be weatherproof, and a lot of facilities sometimes, so like we do a lot with sawmills and steel mills and things where they just have doors open. There's a lot of dust and just fine shards of like metal and things like that around. So they'll put these in these housings, right, inside. However, if you go into a facility and you see that, that's when you definitely want to switch them over to one of our industrial cameras where it's this big for the camera, right? Or maybe this big, depending on which one you go with. But it accomplishes the same thing and keeps all the dust out and it's weatherproof and things like that. So technologies are changing for sure. All right, let me get it back up here. Okay, so then, there we go. Okay, so IP networking. So those are the types of cameras, just to give you a really quick overview. Those are the types of cameras. From there, you've got your, right, next is the IP. Okay, so from there, you've got your NVR or your DVR. So I'll pull this up and just chat with you for a minute here. After you've got your camera picked out, like your customer, okay, these are the cameras we're going to need in these locations. And if you ever have questions or need additional training on how to decide that, just call our office. We're more than happy to help you, or send you like a piece of paper that, well, not a piece of paper, we're not going to mail it to you, we'll email it. And we'll get it off to you. And that just has the questions of like, hey, ask them this and that, like the lighting and stuff like that. And we can help you lay this kind of stuff out. That's what we do. And we're happy to help you. We would rather help you and have it done right and teach you how to do it than have you order it and then, you know, 3 weeks later call us and it's a whole hot mess, right? So anyway, so then you need to choose, okay, well, what kind of cable are they going to run, right? Are they going with the technologies we're going to talk about or not? Are they going with, you know, a DVR, an NVR, a video software? Do they even need to record, or are they just watching the video? So because they want to be able to see who's coming in the door before they unlock it. So those are the kind of questions you're going to ask and you want to find out. The DVRs and NVRs, right? A DVR is a digital video recorder. So when you're going to use anything with coax, you're going to go into a DVR. But if you're going to use an NVR, that's a network video recorder. So when you're using an IP system, you're going to go into the NVR, right? So that's going to be through the network. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Or you would go into a video management software, right? A VMS is what they call it, video management software. And we've got that available as well, right? So we do a lot of different options for everybody. And so that kind of gives you an idea. And then from there, right, so you've got your camera. I've always visualized this. 16 years ago when I started this industry, I visualized how a system would go in my head. So you've got your camera, right? I know this is crazy, y'all are gonna think I'm nuts, but your camera, and then I'm like, okay, camera to the connector, connector to the cable, cable to the connector to whatever piece, processor, DVR, NVR, software, whatever. And then from that, you need to get to your monitor where you can actually visually see whatever you have. So, so those are the steps, right? When you're building a system. So anytime you go to a customer, you want to figure out, okay, let's figure out what type of system it's going to be in terms of the technology, right? Do they have things in place for it to be one type or another type? And we'll go through that next. So, all right. So you've got, how do you choose, right? IP networking, TVI, or analog. So what is an analog video system? So this is the old school, right? This is what it was. It came out, I don't know, in like the 70s. Yeah, we started in 73, right? We've been around since 1973, right? That's a long time, guys. I haven't been around that long, but the company has, and they've been doing a really great job, right? So, so an analog system, that's what it was when it all started. This is on the old coax, right? Which they still sell, RG6 or RG59 coax. And that uses that system to send the video over coax, or you can do Cat5 and Cat6 now through video balance, right? So that's just a straight signal. Picture quality is, it's okay. You know, it gets the job done. You're not gonna have facial recognition from, you know, 40, 80, 50, 100 feet. But if you need to see that somebody's in the parking lot, you're gonna see that kind of stuff. So it's super basic, super standard analog system. So there's no tapes or anything now, right? We've got a DVR, that's that I was talking about earlier, a digital video recorder, and that actually records and stores onto a hard drive. Which makes your video super simple to search and things like that, right? Just like a computer, you can search by calendar, and you can still put this on the network. So a lot of people think, oh, it's an old analog system, I can't view it over the internet. You can, right? So you can put hook it into the internet and you load it up and you pull up the software just like you would an IP system. It's a little bit more limited than an IP system because you can't individually access the cameras in that sense, but you can still view it online through your phone or on the internet or through Explorer or your iPad or your tablet, whatever it is. So there's a lot of features. But analog is the older technology. So typically, if you're going to have somebody that wants to put a new system in, you're not going to have them put in an analog. That's just not it. When you're going to bump into analog is when somebody needs to replace a camera, or maybe they just want one camera to go straight to a monitor and they're trying to keep their price really low. That's when you're going to bump into that. Or even if you get into some of the kits, but even the kits nowadays aren't really analog. And by kits, I mean like a 4-camera system with a DVR. So analog's basically going to be replacement, kind of like a legacy type of system is what you would call it. That being said, when you bump into the industrial world, right, and you go into the industrial market with products, you're going to bump into that analog a whole lot more, and you're going to find a lot more people that want to stick with the analog right now. So that's not totally wiped away, which is why we offer so many analog products, is because we do so much in the industrial market that we've got a lot of analog that's still there. So don't count it out yet. It's still fighting, but just know that if you're putting a brand new system in, this is probably not the one you want to go with. And then you've got an HD TVI video system. So this came out a few years ago. Super cool, right? Like it runs over coax. So you have an analog coax system basically, but you're putting HD TVI products in. So an HD TVI is a high definition over coax. So that means you can get a 1080p resolution over coax. You can get a 5 megapixel resolution over a coax cable. So this is huge, right? So this kind of came on the market, like, you know, just out of nowhere. And all of a sudden we've got, boom, we can upgrade analog systems without having to replace cable for customers, right? Because that's what's so labor intensive and cost, right? Costs so much money. It's not the cable, it's the labor. And so now there's something on the market where you could have somebody upgrade their system from analog to TVI and get the high def resolution without having to recable their facilities or their mini storage or their gas station, whatever it may be, right? It just makes a really simple, easy transition without having to go into the IP networking. So this runs over the coax again, or it can do the Cat5, different from networking, but it can do Cat5 with little connectors, right? The signal is not analog, so it's digital. So that means that if you have a customer that has an analog system, they would need to make sure that they have a system that will accept a TVI camera at this point. So if you're going to sell them a TVI camera, you want to make sure that they have a different system that will accept that, because it is a digital signal and not an analog signal. It uses the same cable, same connectors, but it's a different type of signal. So that's really important. Again, if this is something you're looking at with a customer and you're not sure, or you need additional help, just give us a call. We're happy to help you. That's, again, what we do. So you can get, the moral of this story is you can get high definition over coax. So that's really, really important for customers that can't recable and can't do a lot of the other things. Then we go into our next one, which is IP networking, right? So if you don't know what it is, you will know soon, right? So this is a digital stream over an IP network versus a coax, right? So like an analog or TVI system, video is recorded on hard drives. But since the video is an IP stream straight from the camera, there's more flexibility as to how and where that video is recorded. So a DVR is no longer used. It would be an NVR, which is a network video recorder. And some cases it's the same software, since it doesn't need to convert analog to digital, right? So video footage can then be stored on an NVR hard drive or a VMS software server. And the new and existing network RAID drives are directed by the NVR software. So what this means is that you're actually digitally streaming this. So this is great, right? Huge IP cameras were on the market 16 years ago when I started, right? And they took a really long time to get going because the prices were very high. Well, now the prices are very low, and they're almost to the TVI and the analog pricing, right? Because those are just a little bit less expensive, right? So the pricing has come way down, which has made them flood the market and become mainstream, which is excellent. It's a great technology. We love it, right? So what you're going to do with this is you're going to go in and you can do 4 and 8 camera systems, no problem. Talk to your people, make sure they have high-speed internet, right? There's no dial-up with this. So you want to have these kind of conversations when people are interested in it. If you're putting in new systems, you're going to want to go with an IP networking system. If you're going into facilities or big companies that are going to be a big commercial space that want to put in an IP networking system, you're going to want to get with their IT team, and you're going to want to make sure that they have the infrastructure in place to support it. And if they don't have the infrastructure, listen to me, salesperson to salesperson. If they do not have the infrastructure in place to support an IP system, do not sell them an IP system. Okay? So important. And so many people, oh yeah, we can do it. Oh, we can do it. Well, we're close to the specs that we need. We're close. We kind of have it. Don't do it. It's going to be a nightmare, right? Because there's a lot that it takes to support these kinds of systems when you get into multiple cameras and upwards of 20 and 30 and 40 and 120 camera systems and things like that. They have to have infrastructure in place to support that bandwidth that's there. Facilities a lot of times will say, like that industrial and automation, oh yeah, we've got a whole network for all of our equipment, right? That's great. You need to have a separate one for your video system. Same thing. Do not let them put their video system on their network for their machines. It's just not a good deal, right? So that's really, really important. Just the basics. So don't walk in, right? Like, so that's your number one thing. Hey, okay, great. You want to go IP? Oh, 4 camera system. Yep, let's do it. Let's set you up for your little gas station. Let's get you rolling. But if somebody's looking at 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 camera system, you want to make sure that they've got the infrastructure in place. And that's really important. And again, call us up. We'll help you out with that. We can give you some guidance on how to deal with that, navigate the conversations, and we can even talk to the customer and help them navigate that as well. But the perks of the IP is that you do have higher resolution. You can log into the cameras individually and alter each camera individually, whereas you can't really do that with a DVR, right? Even if a DVR and an analog system has an OSD menu, you have to typically be at the camera to adjust that. So there's a lot of flexibility when you go into an IP networking system over one of the coax systems. So we always recommend that if it's a new system, you want to promote IP networking cameras into that environment, right? It's just going to be a long-term happier customer. We just want to make sure that they've got everything in place that's going to support that. And that's going to run over a Cat5 or a Cat5e or Cat6 cable to make that happen. So let's see. how do you choose, right? And we kind of went through this as we went, but you want to find out, is there an existing system? Oh, okay, you have an existing system. What kind of cables do they have, right? Find out what their budget is. What kind of condition is the cable in? We've had people upgrade to HDTVI only to find out that the cable they have in place is no good, right? So you want them to test this and find out what kind of condition that cable's in, right? What's their budget? You know, and I know nobody wants to give anybody a budget because they think they're going to max it out on their product, but I'll tell you what, it's hard to build somebody a system and quote out a system to them if you don't know what their budget is. So ask someone. Don't be afraid. There's nothing wrong with asking anybody, what's your budget? So you know how to quote appropriately, right? And maybe give them a few options. What's their network like, right? That's what we just kind of talked about. How many cameras? Is there a separate IP infrastructure for them to put the cameras on? And again, with the networking, what's their budget? How tech savvy are they, right? That's a big question. If you've got somebody who is like adamant they're going to go with an IP networking system and it's an 85-year-old man, and I'm not discriminating, but I mean, like there's just a technological difference right there, right? Well, 85-year-old man, I mean, come on, I can barely figure this stuff out some days, right? I mean, so it's just, you know, I mean, let's be appropriate with what we're setting them up with when we're going in and we're talking to people about different systems that they have. And then mainly, like, we can help. And I've said it again and again, right? So this is what we're here for. This is what we do. We want to support you. We want you to be successful. We want you to be comfortable having conversations about CCTV cameras and knowing that you can walk in and say, oh, hey, I see you have a camera there. Where did that camera come from? Who are you buying your cameras from? Are you happy with your cameras? Have you ever had to replace a camera? What do you wish your camera system did that this one maybe doesn't do? You know, and then when they come at you with all this stuff, that's okay. You know what? I don't have the answer, but let me get back to you. I tell people all the time, right? And that's okay. So we just want you to be comfortable enough to have the conversation out there, you know, and throw out a little lingo like, oh, I see you got that bullet camera there, right? Like that's some lingo you can throw out and kind of sound like you know what you're talking about, right? And that's okay. But we want you to come to us. Let us teach you and help you build systems and help guide you with this. Let us do a 3-way conference call with your customer, right? We can find out what their needs really are. Maybe ask some of the questions that you just may not think about because maybe, you know what, it's new to you, and that's okay. But that's what all of this is about with the basic training, is we just want to educate you. We just want to help you learn so that you're comfortable to have the question with people out there. Because if you're not comfortable, you're never going to talk about cameras, and you're going to miss out on so many opportunities to be able to help your customers and help them solve problems that they may have. So that is it for the day. I hope that all of you have a really fantastic week. And please give us a call. Our phone numbers, it's 800-578-1853. Or you can shoot us an email. Like I said, if you have any ideas on other trainings that you want us to do, and info@opticomtech.com is our email address. Just shoot us an email. Have an awesome day. Thanks, guys.